the mechanism in this case is blood loss. So that's the specific physiologic derangement that causes somebody's life functions to cease. So because you can have blood loss from a bunch of different factors, we don't leave that alone on a death certificate. But because the mechanism involves both types of injuries that cause blood loss, the gunshot wound to the head, as well as bleeding internally from those stab wounds, I combined them in my cause of death statement, and I listed it as gunshot wound of head and stab wounds of torso.
And on what did you base that conclusion?
So there was a significant amount of blood in both chest cavities, and so-called softer findings, such as organ pallor. So one of the reasons your skin and your organs appear certain colors that you have circulating blood. So if you're losing that blood volume, you can look very pale, as can your internal organs and your mucosal membranes.
Now, based on your examination of Jennifer, in light of your education, training, and experience, were you able to come to a determination as to the manner of her death?
Yes, I was.
And what was that?
So the manner of death is just basically a shorthand way to explain how the cause of death came to be, so it's the circumstances. So since these injuries were inflicted by another person or persons, the manner of death is classified as homicide.
Okay, and then what did you base that conclusion?
In my opinion, she did not do this to herself, and it didn't happen accidentally, and it's not natural because it's injuries.
Thank you. Doctor, on November 21st of 2018, did you also perform an autopsy on Jesse Caneiro?
I did.
Did you document that examination in a report?
I did.
I'm going to show you and showing counsel what's been marked as S378. Do you recognize that?
So this is the report that I previously looked over and has those same components: the autopsy report, toxicology, investigative report, and additional body diagrams.
Now, what is the date of that report?
So the report was signed on February 1st, 2019.
And does it document the date and time that the autopsy of Jesse was performed?
Yes, I performed the autopsy on November 21st of 2018 at around 2 p.m.
And what was the age of Jesse?
So I was told that Jesse was 11 years old.
And did you take notes on a body diagram with respect to Jesse's autopsy?
Yes, I did.
And if I showed you that diagram, would that assist in explaining his injuries?
Yes, it would.
And we talked earlier about the protocol for performing an autopsy. Were you able to follow that protocol in Jesse's case?
Yes, I did the same basic steps.
During your examination of Jesse's body, did you note anything about his physical condition, including any clothing, height, weight, etc.?
So, starting at the top, I noted that he was only wearing light-colored briefs that were blood-stained and also very wet. He had no personal property that was on his body, but a blue earring was found within the body bag.
How about his weight?
He was 95 pounds.
What, if any, other observations did you make about Jesse during that external examination?
So he had some what we call skin slippage, or loss of the overlying layers of the skin. These can be caused by decomposition, where the bonds break down. But in this case, my opinion is that it's caused by exposure to heat, not obviously as direct exposure to as Jennifer's body was, but there was some heat near him. That's some superficial blistering is another word for it, and there's also some brownish discoloration, not quite charring, but just some changes of the skin on the body.
What, if any, post-mortem changes did you note about Jesse's body?
So he had rigor that was able to be evaluated. It was moderately difficult to break. He had purple posterior lividity that was slightly blanching, and his body was cool, but both bodies have been refrigerated.
I don't know if you explained it, but just lividity, what is that?
It's pooling of the blood in response to gravity. So in whatever position you die in, your heart's no longer pumping. The blood is going to settle downward to gravitational forces. After a certain or before a certain period of time, it's still located within the blood vessels themselves. So you can actually push on the body's surface and physically move with your hand the blood out of those vessels. It's called blanching. After a certain period of time, those blood vessels themselves start to break down, and the blood seeps into all of the other body layers, so the fat, and that's called fixed because it's not in a blood vessel anymore.
So in this case, did the lividity tell you anything at all about Jesse?
Honestly, we document these things because they're part of the standard protocol, but they're very rarely useful in practicality because there's just so many different variations and factors. It's unfortunately not like you see on TV.
Now, on page 2 of your report, do you begin to document Jesse's injuries, both external and internal?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And this is where your attention to the bottom of page 2. How do you generally describe the characteristics of those injuries?
Can you clarify?
Yeah, I think there's 3 different things there, beginning with stab wounds of the torso.
Understood, yes. So in all of my reports involving injuries, I give kind of a summary statement of what type of injuries you see and what general body regions you see them in. So in this case, there are stab wounds of the torso and left upper arm. The torso is just the trunk of the body. An atypical appearing wound of the right side of the chin. I can describe that later. I couldn't classify it into one particular injury category, as well as evidence of smoke inhalation.
You could please have slide 31 diagram. Doctor, what is this that we're looking at on the screen?
So this is a copy of the body diagram that I used during my external examination. You can see Jesse's name up at the top, his unique case number, which is 1300, as well as my initials, the date, and my text initials.
Are all of Jesse's wounds, or at least stab wounds, noted on this diagram, or these diagrams that we're looking at?
Yes.
Can you go over them on this diagram for us, just pointing them out, and then we'll go through each one?
Okay. So starting from the left side, there's wound A, there's wound B, and then further down on the left side is wound C. On the right side, the top of the shoulder, is wound D. Then moving to the arm, there are 4 different wounds, but many of them are paired because the knife went through one side of the arm and came out the other side. So there's E and F on the bicep, and then there's H, I, J, and K that are on the top of the arm or around the axilla. And then there's also a wound near the left nipple, G.
We could have slide 28, please. Doctor, what are we looking at in general here?
This is a photograph of Jesse's body. You can see his case number up at the top. You can also see this purple discoloration here. That's lividity.
Of the wounds that we looked at on the body diagram just previously, which of those wounds, if you put in terms of how you characterize them by their letter, which of those wounds are we looking at on this picture?
So this is A, this is B, this is C. You cannot appreciate D. It's under
Where would that be?
It's under the black box. This is very roughly the top of the shoulder up there. And then let me look at my report to see if this is E or F, just because the arm is rotated. So this is F.
So in your report, under injury number 1, stab wound, back of left shoulder, do you see that on page 2?
I do.
Which injury does that correspond to on here? What letter?
So this is letter A.
Can you describe for us what you noted about that injury?
Yes, so it slightly obliquely oriented or at an angle. There's no discernible blunt edge. And these are standard descriptions that we give of these external wound characteristics. The measurement on the skin was 1/2 inch long with the tension, 3/8 of an inch without the tension.
Now, after penetrating the skin, which direction did the knife proceed through?
So this went through the shoulder blade in towards the front of the shoulder and soft tissue of the left shoulder area.
And the estimated depth of the penetration is what?
So this went approximately 3 to 4 inches through the body. It did not enter the chest cavity. It was straight through, kind of towards the axle, if you will.
I'm going to refer you to injury number 2 in your report. What does that say?
So this is a stab wound of the left upper back.
And can we see that in this photo?
Yes, it's lettered B, both on the photo and in the report.
Can you describe anything that you noted about this injury?
This injury does have some bruising around it, or some hemorrhage of the blood that's entered the soft tissue.
And how is it oriented?
So it's slightly obliquely oriented, but the other direction. It is 1/2 inch long on the skin surface with tension and 3/8 of an inch without tension.
Can you say anything about the direction of penetration and or the estimated depth?
Yes, so unlike in my report, which has a typo, it's actually back to front. The knife goes through the skin surface and struck a spinous process of the vertebral column. These are projections of bone that stick off the back of your vertebra so that muscles can attach to them. So because the knife struck the bone, it only went approximately 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch deep.
We can move on to wound number 3 in your report. What is that?
So wound number 3 is the C, the back of the left shoulder.
What, if anything, did you note about this wound?
This is a very similar appearance. It's obliquely oriented. It measures 3/4 of an inch long on the surface of the skin and 3/8 of an inch without tension.
After penetrating the skin, can you explain the direction that the knife proceeded?
Yes, it went through the soft tissue of the back and through the back of the chest cavity. It entered the chest, but there are no injuries that I saw to internal organs in the left side of the chest.
I'd like to move on to injury number 4. What is that?
That's D. That's the one that is obscured by this black box.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you note about that injury?
So this injury has a different appearance. It's 1.5 inches long with tension and 1.25 inches long without tension. The wound edges are slightly irregular, leading me to think there's more of that pulling of the knife and or twisting of the body while this injury is happening.
And is that different from the other injuries that you just described?
The appearance is different, yes.
We can go back to this page. Oh, we have to, I'm sorry. If we could capture this, please.
That's 28.1.
Doctor, if we could move on to injury number 5 now in your report. What is that?
So this is a stab wound of the left upper arm and chest. And I should point out these next 3 wounds are all closely approximated on the body. So they're all involving the left shoulder or upper arm and involve a trajectory or a track that enters the axilla or armpit, as well as the chest, both in the axilla and then on the chest itself. So meaning to me that his arm was held in a position where it's against his chest, because I can follow 3 separate wound tracks in that direction.
So are you saying that the wound would have gone through the arm and come out the other side?
Several do, and then are associated with almost a re-entry stab wound on the torso. So went completely through the arm, and then the knife went straight into the torso.
Understood. Now, Doctor, the slide that we just looked at, were you able to see those wounds on that picture?
I could see wound F, which is the inside of the upper arm. The arm is very tricky because I'm observing someone in this position, but obviously they can move their arm all around, and it can be difficult to measure as well as document the inside of the wounds. So I have a lot of pictures of different orientations so I can see which wounds match up to which wounds.
Now, Doctor, of the pictures that you and I looked at, is there another picture that depicts those wounds that you just referred to?
Yes, I believe there's at least one picture that gets a large, most of the groupings of the wounds.
If we could please have slide 29. Doctor, what are we looking at?
Okay, so this is the left upper arm. So we are not seeing that wound on the back of the arm. That's lower down. This is just the very top of the shoulder and upper arm. And these wounds actually all connect. So this is make sure I have the right one here. That's each. Yep. This is wound 4.
So the line that you have, the purple line with the arrow, is the outermost one? I'll let you say it.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
It's hard just with the one photograph and not seeing the zoomed out picture to orient.
So you have I, K, and J.
Yes.
Now is that the order? Is that the order of the wound, sort of, in terms of entry?
So the knife entered the outside of the upper arm, went through the front of the upper arm, so in front of the, just make sure. It didn't hit the humerus. It went through the muscles of the upper arm, exited out the inside of the upper arm, and I'm retracting the arm out so you can see that this wound J represents a wound back into the axilla. So in reality, this picture is taken like this so you can appreciate all the wounds, but the wound path is actually like this.
Doctor, in your report, do you make certain notations about each of these wounds in your report?
I don't understand the question.
I'll refer to you. So, wound number 5 in your report.
Yes.
What is that wound referred to on this picture?
So wound number 5 is not visible. That would be down here, and F would be down here. So that's a lower down stab wound that is not visible in this one photo. Where the knife went completely through the muscles of the back of the arm and exited out the front. After that, when you line all of these wound tracks back up, it lines perfectly with the stab wound in the left chest.
Doctor, if we can move on, and I want to get to that, but to wound number 6, what is that, and do we see it on here?
Wound number 6 is right here. This is H. This is the stab wound of the left upper arm. It's quite close to the top of the shoulder. This is one of the more atypical appearing, or not atypical, but one of the larger wounds on the skin surface. It measures 2 inches long with that tension and 2 1/4 inches without the tension. And this is another wound that it's difficult to appreciate on this photo, the exact pathway, because that knife actually goes in the arm and just travels through the musculature of your axilla and your upper arm. So it looks like it's connected to some of these, but it's actually just the knife goes in, doesn't come back out.
And then wound number 7, do we see that on this photo?
Yes, this is this complex of wounds that I highlighted here.
The IKJ.
So IKJ, yes.
Okay, go back to the diagram.
Hold on, I don't do that yet. Slide 29.1, please. All right, doctor, we could clear that, please.
Doctor, on this diagram, the third one down, facing the photo to the right, where it says G.
Yes.
Can you just tell us about that? Because I don't think we saw that one.
No, that's not represented in any of the pictures we have. This is associated with these wounds here, E and F. So that's also under, that is supposed to be a Roman numeral V. So this is the knife going through the upper arm into the chest wall. And after this went through the chest wall on the left, it entered the chest cavity but did not cause any internal injuries other than some bleeding into the chest.
Thank you, doctor. And then, was there another wound that you know in particular? I'm looking at wound 8.
Yes.
Is that on this diagram?
It is not on this diagram.
Okay. Is it in one of the pictures that we looked at?
Yes.
If we could please.
Can we print 31.1, please? So E, F, and G are all part of this, a single wound.
Yes.
So you can erase that when you get a chance, doctor, and then we'll look at the next. Okay, if you have slide 30. Doctor, what are we looking at in this slide?
So this is this wound 8, wound of right shin. So the feet are towards this way. This is the mouth is up here. Okay, the head would be towards the top of the screen. And this wound is very shallow. It does have some features that I would lump in the gunshot wound category. So it's got a central punched out defect. Did I say shotgun? Gunshot wound, entrance wound category. And then this, so this is the hole, and then this is what we call a margin of abrasion, meaning that the bullet struck the skin at an acute angle and scraped the skin off. But because this is such a shallow wound and there's no track in the body, I was not comfortable classifying it definitively as a gunshot wound, but with this appearance of the outside, and there's a depressed fracture of the underlying mandible of the jaw, I think this is very reasonable to believe that this is some type of what we call atypical gunshot wound.
Doctor, can you just orient us on yourself? Whereabout is that wound?
So it's about here.
Thank you.
For the record, the doctor pointed to the right side, just below her lips, down towards the bottom part of her jawbone.
We could preserve this.
Slide 30.1.
Doctor, did any of the stab wounds that you described or the wound to the chin hit any major organs that would have caused immediate blood loss?
Not immediate fatal blood loss, or fatal organ injury, I should say.
Now, after you note these particular injuries, your report goes on to discuss the internal examination. I'd like to draw your attention to page 5 where it says neck. Do you see that?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you note about this area?
So as I did in Jennifer's case, I removed the entire respiratory system in block, tongue, trachea, bronchi, lungs, and opened that up so I can see if there's any soot deposited anywhere in the breathing pathways. So this had a small amount of dark colored material that was a little bit further up towards the, near the vocal cords, so towards the top.
Did that mean anything to you?
Again, this is a soft sign that somebody was alive at the time of a fire, bringing in that particles, those dark particles, that soot.
Doctor, your report goes on to discuss your examination of the respiratory system. Do you see that?
I do.
And what, if anything do you note about that, or did you note?
So further down where the trachea splits into the main stem bronchi, going to the right and left lung, there was some similar appearing dark material there.
Now, what, if any, testing was conducted with respect to smoke inhalation?
So in addition to a comprehensive toxicology panel, I requested a carbon monoxide exposure screen, as I did in Jennifer.
And what were the results of that?
So this is the result of that 8% carboxyhemoglobin. So 8 of the 100 hemoglobin molecules had carbon monoxide bound to them.
And just what does that mean, if you could explain that to us?
So when we have fire deaths, we always send for carbon monoxide. We want to make sure that it is elevated enough to explain the death. Obviously, if we have a death that's billed as a fire death and the concentration is 0, that's concerning that something else happened and the fire was set to obscure that. Lower concentrations can be fatal in people that have significant underlying disease, such as in elderly people with heart disease. It can be difficult to interpret at the lower levels because normal individuals can have anywhere from 2 to 3.5%, depending on which textbook you read, that is just breathing in our environment. People who are smokers, I've seen reported anywhere from up to 5 to 8%. But so his 8% is in that range, but because I don't have the history that Jesse was a smoker, I believe that this is all from inhalation of that carbon monoxide during a fire.
Now, could you determine at the time of Jesse's death whether he was suffering from any natural diseases?
So after I examined all of the organs and all of the organ cavities, he appeared to be a standard 11-year-old in good health.
Could you determine whether any natural causes contributed to Jesse's death?
There was no natural disease present to contribute to his death.
Now, based on your examination of Jesse Caneiro, and in light of your education, your training, and experience, were you able to come to a determination as to the cause of his death?
Yes.
And what was that?
So in this case, I gave it a cause of death and a contributing cause of death. So similar to Jennifer, his mechanism is blood loss and the inability to deliver oxygen to his organs, but he had while hers was just blood loss, he has the addition of having that carbon monoxide that is going to limit his oxygen carrying capacity. So I listed the stab wounds of the torso and left upper extremity as the cause of death, or the main cause of death, but then the contributing cause of death is smoke inhalation.
And what did you base these conclusions on?
My years of training experience, the autopsy I performed on him, as well as the many other autopsies I performed on both homicide victims and fire victims.
And based on your examination of Jesse, and in light of your education, training, and experience, were you able to come to a determination as to the manner of his death?
Yes, I was.
And what was that?
So similarly, these injuries were not self-inflicted or accidental in nature. They're not natural, so homicide. They were inflicted by somebody else or some other set of persons.
And what did you base that conclusion on?
Just the appearance of the wounds,